And one of the most important aspects of that for me was learning how to set goals.
Right.
My mentor one day said to me, Mr. Rohn, let me see your current list of goals, and let's go over and talk about it. He said, I've got some experience. I'm sure I can help you. And I said, I don't have a list. He said, really? He said, I can tell you right now, if you don't have a list of your goals, I can guess your bank balance within a few $100s.
Wow.
Which he did.
Wow.
And that got me thinking. I said, do you mean my bank balance would change if I had a list of goals? He said, drastically. That was the day I learned how to set goals.
Okay.
Decide what you want, write them all down. Who do you want to meet? Make that list. The books you want to read, make that list. The places you want to go, make that list. The experiences you want to have, make that list. Education for your family, make that list. So I started making all these lists. Then he said, just start checking them off. So at first I put a lot of little things on my list so I could check off something almost every day.
Right.
Because that's what's fun.
Right.
Then he said, if you check off something significant, celebrate.
Right.
Because that'll inspire you to even develop a longer list.
When you don't see limits, because like if you're coming from a space where you're actually ambitious, I don't think ambition is a learned behavior. I think it's a part of a person's natural character. So I'll always, no matter what I accomplish, you're going to see me back at your show saying, I think I got another idea, I can make this work. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to be like, this guy just won't stop. But I'm telling you in advance, you'll see me again. But like, like,
that means that 50 just booked himself on the show again. That's what I think that means. Go ahead.
Yeah, but like I'll always find a new goal set for myself and work towards accomplishing it, because that's what really excites me. That's what makes me happy. Like when it works. A lot of times there's nothing around to support it.
Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency. I pray that you all put your shoes way under the bed that night so that you got to get on your knees in the morning.
I'm wondering if you have any personal tricks on how you keep yourself motivated.
I set pretty high goals for myself. They're usually higher than what I think most other people set for me. I just am I'm very driven to achieve them. I'm a goal-oriented individual, and I just am very driven to achieve those goals.
A lot of times my issue is people are not setting goals that will be something that somebody who becomes rich or could do anything. You got to be excited about working on that for 10 years. So you got to have a big enough goal that you attract the best people and you retain them and you keep them focused. And then in my experience, you don't go wrong. Maybe you don't hit it next year, or maybe you fail entirely and you discover something more exciting to work on with the same set of people.
I would say to continue to work hard and don't give up on your goals. And I know for me, like I said, I grew up watching my family struggle, and I grew up with a family that was successful but not born successful. And I believe with hard work and with a goal and love and positivity, then eventually we're going to be fine.
You set goals because you want to achieve certain things in your life. Whether it's golf for me, or whether it's buying a house for someone else, or whether it's securing a good job or have a family, or whatever it is. There's many different reasons why you set goals, and I obviously have a lot of goals for my career, and I have a lot of goals for my life as well. But I think it's important to set goals because it means you don't get complacent. You always have something to aim for. You can set result-oriented goals where it's a long-term goal, or you can set little short-term goals to help you get to that long-term goal. So instead of saying I want to win the Masters, I'll say what will help me win the Masters and what I need to improve to get there.
After I left university, I was working on Wall Street. I was an oil trader on Wall Street for 2 years, hated it. It was the worst experience of my entire life. I was a victim of bad culture and knew I wanted to be creative, a great one. And when I was growing up, I realized I had one goal in life, right? And that was to get as wealthy as possible, as quickly as possible. And I realized that there are 3 ways.
Like that you're honest about it.
I keep it very real about that. There are 3 ways to do it. The first was to be an actor and athlete. That didn't work out for me at all. The second way was to work on Wall Street. Hated it. And I said, damn, I've already exhausted 2 of the 3. The last one was entrepreneurship. And the day that I came to that realization, I said, you know what? I hate Wall Street. I want to get as far away from this place, literally and figuratively, as possible. There's a school called Stanford. I think it's well known for entrepreneurship. I didn't really know what that meant. Let me apply. And fortunately, I got in. And it wasn't until literally I got out in August of 2008 that I saw other 24-year-olds not only making millions of dollars, but fundamentally changing the world. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that, and kind of the rest is history at that point.
I've been terrible about setting goals all my life and trying to get there. And one of my goals, as you well know, was to make that the best store in Arkansas.
That's right.
And we got there before we left town. We became the biggest store, the most profitable Ben Franklin store in the state of Arkansas.
I want to talk a little bit about goals on the line of how do you lose 37 pounds and write a book. I'm just going to kind of give you that as an example. For 24 years of my adult life, by choice, I weighed well over 200 pounds. I say by choice because, you see, I have never accidentally eaten anything. I mean, it's always been deliberate. And when I choose to eat too much today, I have chosen to weigh too much tomorrow. You can choose to set goals and realize your potential, or you can choose not to set them. Now, if you choose not to set them, you got to understand that the consequences are not going to be good down the road. For 24 years, I was going to lose that weight. As a matter of fact, in 24 years, I lost several thousand pounds of weight. How many of you already know exactly what I'm talking about? But it wasn't until I wrote it down, put a date on it, listed the obstacles I had to overcome, identified the people, the groups, the organizations I needed to work with, spelled out a plan of action, set that time limit in there, and identified all of the benefits to me. It was only when I did that that the goal became a reality, and I lost the weight. For 10 or 15 years, I was going to write a book. You know anybody who's going to do just a whole lot of things, folks? I was going to write a book. But it wasn't until I got busy writing the book and writing the plans first before the book ever materialized. Now, if it sounds like I'm trying to sell you on having goals, how many of you are getting close already? How many of you are becoming convinced right quick like that you need to have those goals? There's no question about it. The immortal J.C. Penney many, many years ago said, give me a stock clerk with a goal, and I'll give you a man who will make history. But give me a man without a goal, and I'll give you a stock clerk. Now, the interesting thing is goals do not care who has them. Let me give you a classic example of the way they work. In 1950, a war-torn, devastated Japan, a nation which had lost an incredibly high percentage of its young men. Their cities were in ruins. They had been bombed out. But in 1950, they got together. They, meaning industry and government, got together and set a goal. The goal was we're going to be the #1 nation in the world during the 1950s in the production of textiles. In 1959, ladies and gentlemen, they accomplished that objective. In 1960, they set another goal. We're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel. Now, when you understand there's no iron ore in Japan of any significance, there's no coal of any significance there, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel, it seemed like an absurd goal, and yet they reached their objectives. They had taken all of the steps. In 1970, the Japanese set another goal. They said during the 70s, we'll be the #1 nation in the world in the production of automobiles. They missed it, folks. 1 year. It took them until 1980. In 1980, they set another goal. And this time their goal was, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of computers and electronics. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you absolutely must have those goals.